Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town. Tyler Gould, happy Thursday, man.
Happy Thursday, Mike Freeman.
We just spent some time with Bryan Beverley, right? Bryan Beverley is a good friend of yours from your stomping grounds down there. What can our listeners expect from our time? And by the way, not even close to enough time. And I know our listeners are going to freak out because they know we go 2 hours. This was cut short prematurely at 2 hours.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't get like anywhere near his whole story, but you know what do listeners have to look forward to? I mean, grenades, airplane jumps, Panama. I mean, it's so all over the place. It's hard to describe, but
Papua New Guinea,
Papua New Guinea, yeah, baptizing a village. I mean, it's really hard to believe, but you listen to it in the context of Bryan Beverley telling his story, and those moments turn into powerful lessons.
And they're crazy diverse moments, and the people that he lists off and the people that he honors in telling the stories, it's just a remarkable path that he's on. And from an early age, we get this vibe that Bryan Beverley is around to protect people.
Yeah.
And he's geared for excellence.
Yeah, it's really wild when he takes stock of the people that are in his lives and the experiences that he has that sort of maybe bring out those characteristics. He's a passionate guy, and he is. I mean, you could tell that he just has this real love of life, and based on some of the experiences he's been through, you would kind of anticipate a tough exterior, but Bryan really brings the love, like you said, in honoring all of these people that he lists off a lot of people in this episode that kind of shape him and influence him and help him get where he is today.
Yeah, I really hope we can do something with the video from some of the video from this episode, because the dude is burning calories while he's telling us these stories, right? Like, he's moving around and his smile is ear to ear as he's talking about some pretty crazy, challenging circumstances that he finds himself in. But he forges his own path, right? He deals with some adverse circumstances by just saying, you know what, I got to do what feels right, and this feels right, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think, Mike, you and I talked after we spent some time with Bryan just about the idea of excellence, and the idea of raising the bar in certain areas of our lives, right? And Bryan kind of models that. He talks about the tough and the low moments, but he models how you can get through some things, and like you said, still have a smile on your face, be able to laugh about some things.
Yeah,
and
Bryan, Bryan thought he had a long night. After Bryan leaves, we end up talking for another couple hours. just about because I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see a more excellent me as I learn and as I'm applying some of the things that Bryan's teaching me.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, I think I love where we go with Bryan. I love the fittest of the fit.
Yeah.
And I love the idea that Bryan had some doors open for him. There were some calls made and there were some doors open, but he earned it, right? He earned the place that he's in, and he acknowledges the people that helped get him there. And oh man, just some of the heartbreak, being 10 or 11 and feeling some things out of your control,
Yeah.
Just wanting to control, wanting to help people that you love find happiness and be happy. And he goes, we don't need to spoil it, but he goes a stretch of his life with a question.
Yeah.
He's got a question, and he can't find the answer until the day that he does. And when it does, he locks it in. And the other thing that I dig about Bryan, he needs to be taught a couple of times before the lesson sinks in.
Yeah. Yeah. He just does reference the fact that he's it's kind of a hard learner sometimes. And but you know, I love you reference him seeking out the answer to that one question. And you know what I love about that search for Bryan is the impact him finding the answer had on so many other people.
Yeah. And we even get into it a little bit as we get that one answer, as we each individually with our own questions find that answer. It becomes, a little bit of shift in our purpose from finding that answer to sharing and helping other people, not giving our answer, but helping them find answers to their own questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it. And I appreciate you connecting us. I feel like Bryan Beverley, man, is a guy you want to know. When it goes down, you want to know. You want to know Bryan Beverley. And Bryan Beverley is a proven friend of the Gould family. We start out the conversation with what he does, for the Blanchard family in a moment of need. And Brian Blanchard is there, and he's dependable. He learns through life experiences that God's promises are also dependable. And folks are gonna love the way he tells that story. So to our listeners, you're gonna love Bryan Beverley as much as we love Bryan Beverley. And I think really you are going to get, maybe you're going to feel that pull. You're going to feel that pull to be better. And we invite you to listen to that pull and take whatever steps you need to take to be the best that you can be as you enjoy your time with Bryan Beverley on this episode of The Richest Men in Town. Protein shakes, huh?
Yeah. 100 calories each, man. That's it, man. That and water, that's my all day affair until dinner. It's not comfortable.
You got some hangry going on.
Oh yeah. I'm ready to just tear people apart by the time I get home. I'm sacrificing the welfare of my family for my weight loss.
What's the goal?
You're
not a portly fellow, so I think protein shakes sounds rather extreme.
So look, Mike, my as I was taught by Mike Burke, my goal is to be healthy. Okay. Just to be healthy. Yeah. That's really it. I'm just trying to be consistent in some things. Yeah. There's some numbers I want to hit, but I got some work to do. So I'm just committed to that, and then we'll see where it ends up, It's all about calories right now. I'm just cutting calories, dude. I don't know. I'm doing 2 a day. That's 200 calories. And then I come home and I try to eat reasonably.
Everything.
Well, I come home and I want to eat everything. It's amazing. Like, when I drive by fast food places, I'm like, dude, everything on that menu would be so good right now. And I don't even like half of it, but I'm like, oh man, you know what I could go for? A nacho Bel Grande or whatever.
The 90s called and they want their Taco Bell dinner by.
Oh man, yeah, that dude, come on. Taco Bell in the 90s, 59-cent menu.
That's it.
Come on.
That's it. So I had a kind of an epiphany as well. I was in Costco and I was like, it's like a 4-pack of salads there, right? And I was like, hey, Kelly, the cost of that 4-pack of salads is one lunch run for me.
Yeah.
Let's just, I'm going to be salad guy at work.
Nice.
And I've decided that I'm a salad guy, but I'm a dressing guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I'm with you.
I think I put so much dressing on the salad. So I get these little salad packs. Number one, the workplace is just like, whoa, Mike's got a salad.
Something's wrong. Yep.
And then I pull out this dinky little cup of dressing, and I'm like, this could be rough.
Right? Yeah, you got to have a backup bottle of ranch in your desk drawer.
And and in the end, I empty it out. In the end, I eat the salad, and I'm like, that ratio wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And we had one little derailment yesterday. Yesterday turned into a spontaneous Bartels run.
Ooh. That's not
Shout
bad.
out to Bartels. That's the best burger in town.
Nothing wrong with that.
Apologize to my coworkers for getting the onions. I felt like Pigpen all day. You know what I mean? Like I'm walking around in this cloud of like business.
Cloud of stank that everyone's just avoiding.
And then you got to put the mask on, and it's like now you're in your own
you're
stink.
just dealing with yourself. That's when that's when you really start to realize what's going on. You put that mask on, you're like, oh, this is what people are dealing with? Come on. Come on now. That ain't right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know where you're at with the mask protocol, but I think I've realized, and I don't mean to gross out our listeners, but I don't know if I've washed the mask I've used for maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Is that bad? Is that bad form? That's bad form.
There's got to be like a formula, like how long you wear it equals how many times you got to wash it. I mean,
I'm sure
mine doesn't get a lot of use. I don't have to wear a mask at work. I'm sort of sequestered in my office, so all's well there. But I have a rule though, because in my family, like you go out, and if I'm in my car, I have some extra masks, and people are like, "Oh, I forgot my mask," and they want to take my mask, and I'm like, "Well, no, that's your mask. Like I'm not going to put."
You're giving it to them. You're giving it.
Oh yeah, I don't do when you're done with my mask, give it back to me. No, that's your mask. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know what's going on.
No, it's you.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about school year next year involving masks still.
I thought we got some vaccines, man. What's going on? I don't know what's happening.
I don't know what's happening either. Talk to me about tonight. Bryan Beverley.
Yeah, Bryan Beverley.
I'm excited about Bryan Beverley.
Our guest of honor tonight, man. Yeah, Bryan's a good guy. He is he's got a story to tell. He's had some experiences in life, and Bryan's one of those guys that just, man, he's all in when he's around you. Like he's gonna be the guy. Look, he for a mutual friend of ours, Mike, Troy Blanchard. Yeah. Shout out to Troy. He was traveling to his new home in Utah, and Bryan Beverley went with him. They just jammed down there, dropped some stuff off out of a moving van, and turn around and come right back. And Bryan Beverley decided to build a pergola in the backyard in the few hours that he was there. So if that gives you any idea.
Yeah, and I'm running that situation through my filter right now, and I love you, bro, but I could do the road trip. I could drive out with you.
Yeah.
But the next morning, sun comes up and you want me to build a pergola? Wow, dude, I don't think you want to stand under the pergola I'm going to be building.
Like, given all the rest that you could give me, there's probably some questionable things happening in the building of that pergola. You know what I mean?
I hear that story, and I want Bryan Beverley as my friend.
Well, tonight's your night, man.
Here we go.
I think that can be arranged. Good stuff. So should we kick this door in and let Bryan in the room?
I say let's kick it in. I say let's bring Bryan Beverley in and let's hear this story. Bryan Beverley, welcome to the richest men in town, brother. How are you?
Hey, great. Thanks. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
So Bryan's coming. You're coming to us live from your office, huh?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm just glad to be here.
We're glad you're with us, man. It's funny. I was telling you guys the other night that I got a text message from our friend, our mutual friend here, Troy Blanchard, right? And he sent me a text and he was saying, Tyler, I don't want to have undue influence on your show or anything, but if there's a guy that you need to have on Richest Men in Town, it's Bryan Beverley. And I thought, well, that's pretty funny considering the fact that you and Troy were just road tripping for 10 hours together and that never came up. So
yeah, I told him, what was it? I think just last night or something. I was like, hey, bro, just FYI, man, I'm going on the show.
That's funny, man. I let you break that news. I didn't tell him. So I just thought, yeah, it's a good idea. So
I like that Troy Blanchard, and I like the respect he paid you with that little icebreaker. Like, hey, I don't mean to tell you how to do your business. Like, that's kind of a nice thing. Cause like, I don't have that many like realms in my life that are like mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of cool that he like pays homage and is like, hey, you got your business, you're going to do your thing. But I kind of like that.
Yeah. Cause even the things that I think are mine, someone else is telling me what to do. Really, at the end of the day, it's just there's always someone behind the curtain telling me what
My
to
wife.
do. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I don't mean to throw Kelly Freeman under the bus, but her husband has a podcast and sometimes it happens, right? Anyways, Sunday dinner. We're hanging out Sunday dinner. And somebody describes like this guy who's doing something, and it's like, wow, how's he getting away with that? Like, how's his wife, like, giving him green light to do that kind of stuff? And my wife's sister said, oh, you guys get to do what you want. And I was like, well, what? And my wife's like, yeah, I let you do everything you want to do. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
You know, Tyler, that you could do whatever you, I mean, I didn't know this. Maybe I'm asking for permission and I shouldn't be asking for permission.
Well, that's a moment where you take out a piece of paper and you're like, you know what? Sign here, Kelly Freeman. Because,
there's always some fine
sign.
print, right?
Yeah, we've just entered into a contract and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, because like I've been telling you about the acoustic guitar that's sitting in my Amazon cart.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, because you know how many guests you got? One in the back right there. You got a guitar.
I do.
So I have all these guests on these podcasts, and I see the cool guitar in the background. And I'm like, maybe I got to get me a guitar and see what I can do with this thing. And it's sitting in the cart, waiting for her to pull the trigger, right? To her to like allocate the funds because I can't do what I want. And then she tells me I can do what I want.
Here's how you're going to test that, Mike. You're going to buy that guitar and then you're going to find out how quickly you have to return that guitar. That's that's the test.
No, here's what I'm going to do. After I'm off this call, Brian, I'm going to get on Amazon. I'm going to upgrade the guitar I had in the car. Right? I'm going to get something nice. I don't even know what I'm doing. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah, if I show up on your doorstep, Tyler, it's evidence that I can't just do what I want.
Right before Father's Day.
Yeah, this is it.
I can't pull that trigger 3 days before it's Mother's Day.
No, you absolutely can, because what you're going to do is buy that guitar and then very quickly learn how to play a song for Kelly. And you do what? It's gold. It's gold, man.
Woody's Cheers song, Kelly, Kelly, Kelly. How hard is that? That can't be that hard. Right? Because here's the problem. As a novice songwriter and a girl named Kelly, my choices are belly, jelly, smelly.
Yeah, I'd go with belly. Out of all those choices, that's your safest.
You got Nelly.
Yeah, got Nelly.
Willie. I don't know.
So I my takeaway so far, Brian, in our time together is I'm going to go upgrade and buy a crazy expensive guitar, and I'm going to go write a song about my wife and use the word belly.
Yeah, and you know, the second option that Brian gave you was Nelly. I mean, with those two words, you're onto something for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Usually I get great advice from this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly where that's going to go. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say if you're looking for great advice in this podcast, you need to stay tuned into the deeper minutes, because the first 10 or 15 are always a bit sketchy.
Hey, and can we talk about this, Brian? I'm just concerned about my good friend Tyler, that he's gonna wither away to nothing. He's on a protein drink kick, right?
I am. I'm on a controlled calories. Controlled calories. He's consuming 200 calories, and then he's bringing holy terror to the guild home.
That's it.
Nacho Bel Grande. Here we go.
Only 200.
200, and then dinner.
Then dinner.
Woo, dude.
Yeah, I'm worried about him. I'm worried about him, Brian.
Woo. Well, listen. What I've learned is that it's given me a bit of an edge in my meetings at work. Right. No one really wants to question what I'm doing. So that's a good thing. And then, you know, I've got to learn that on the drive home, I've got to channel that energy into dinner.
I'm dropping you off treats, bro. Some sneak treats.
Yes,
Now I
right.
got to tell you, the thing I do like about your plan, number one, very few moving parts,
Yeah,
pretty easy, pretty simple,
very easy.
and then you can probably go pretty hard at dinner and still be safe.
Maybe. Well, I'll let you know what this looks like in a couple weeks. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
we'll circle back with that. We'll
Yeah.
circle back.
Yeah.
But it's in the spirit of being healthy. I can get behind that.
Well, look, Bryan, we had a guest on a few weeks ago, Michael Burke. Shout out to Michael Burke. And he was talking to us about the way to set real goals, like attainable goals. Is this what, right? That was the conversation we're having, right?
Yeah. I think I was his subject.
Yeah, you were the guinea pig.
Yeah.
And he asked Mike, what's one of the goals? And Mike said, I want to reach X number in weight. I won't out you, Mike. You can throw that out. Or else you can just.
Oh, no, yeah. I think it was like, I want to see 200 on a scale, right? And I think he kind of went like.
Yeah. But he did.
Yeah.
But he did say maybe the goal should just be, I want to be healthy and not, I want to reach a certain number. And his rationale was that if we're have a goal to be healthy, then we're changing our lifestyle and we're not just shooting for a number, right? That maybe that once that goal is attained, you're on to a extra large pizza from Papa John's and a,
when it comes down to like you have choices, right? Almost like Dave Speck last week. Like, I'm just trying to make the next right choice. And it's like when challenges confront me, I'm trying to choose, what does faith look like right now?
Right? Look, when you guys bring up this diet thing. So about 2 years ago, I was in San Fran, and I went to a basketball tournament with my cousins and in Boise, Idaho, and they took a picture of me and put a liter of maybe China or something next to me, and I was like, I look just like him, man. And Bryan, man, you gaining some weight, buddy. I was like, oh, what? And then I was like, since that day, that picture, I still have it. I made it a goal. Okay, this is it. And today I weighed myself from 227. I'm down to 168.
Whoa, 168. That's crazy.
Whoa. So hold on. So do you think the picture did it?
It sure motivated me.
Because I got a picture. I got a picture. My kids took this picture of me, and I don't know if I was just off that day or something. But it's like, whoa, that's my face. Whoa, that's what I'm presenting to the world.
That's exactly. I'll have to show you that sometime, man. Oh, I do look like it, man.
I kind of like the picture. I kind of like the picture idea, Tyler.
Well, look, I got to be honest with you. When this whole Zoom era started, and I jump on a Zoom meeting, and my head looks like a freaking basketball, I'm like, all right, you know what? Like, something's wrong, man. Yeah, I'm all the settings I can adjust, and I'm just getting bigger. And I'm like, that's not working.
You just change your name to like, I love butter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah.
Well, so hold on. So Bryan, I'm not good at math, but let's break that down. 227 to what?
168. Yeah. What's that?
Oh, that's crazy. Because I got to tell you something right now. In my mind, that seems impossible to me. Like, I tell myself stuff, right? Yeah. I tell myself like, no, dude, you're big bone. There's no way you can be 175.
Big bone. But you know what?
That's something.
That's interesting though, because I think like the photo thing is interesting, because I feel that. I feel you on that. Like, there's some pictures that I see and I'm like, dude, like that's embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, that's embarrassing. And then, but the other thing is like, I do like the idea of, you said, I just tell myself that's impossible.
It's that script, right?
Yeah. I think there's those things that we repeat enough that it just becomes the reality that we live in. We settle into that. And I mean, that could be weight, that could be whatever it is, right? I'm not a reader, right? Or whatever. I'm not a guy that is going to be, I don't like to pray or whatever that is, right? We just tell ourselves certain things and it becomes reality.
I agree, man. Over time, you just, it gets in you. And I just kept like with this weight and the challenges and stuff like that. I kind of was in a bad place. I was getting depressed, and some, the commute from San Fran was like 3 hours a day and for 50 miles. you know.
Oh yeah.
I had a bad boss. I love my job, but I had a bad boss and some issues, you know, like telling me to leave my religion at the door and stuff like that. And my evaluations were dropping. I was like, oh, what is going on, man? And you know, I was like, and I didn't even notice. My wife, she didn't say much. But when I went home with my mom would like poke me in the side and say, "Oh, Pillsbury," you know.
Only moms,
man.
Yeah. You know, and the kids, you know, but you know, I had to make a change, man, because I was going down a road I didn't think I'd make it back if I kept going.
So because I think it's weird because I think that the things that we tell ourselves on the negative side seem easier to fall into than the things that the things that we try to change, right? When we say, well, okay, look, I'm big boned, man. Right? Here I am. This is what it is. But I think telling ourselves like, I can break this, or I can be this, or I can be something different. I think that's the harder thing. I don't know why that is.
Well, so check this out. You want to talk about that script, right? So the other day I'm connecting with some mutual friends, Tyler of ours, and they went to Park City to run a marathon. Okay. So Park City, that's 8,000 elevation.
Yeah.
You don't train for that, right? So they get ready. They're in the best shape they've been in a long time. 26.2 miles is a marathon. He tells me at mile 2, he knows he's done.
What?
And he finishes.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
You want to talk about the power of that script, right? Or the power of that talk. Mile 2, his legs are shaking like he's done an 18-mile prep run.
No oxygen.
And he's redlining cardio, and he's 2 miles in on a 26.2 mile run. And he finishes.
That's interesting, Mike, because maybe, you know, we've been talking, Bryan, Mike and I have been talking a lot about this idea of removing debris from our lives, you know, and trying to like adjust and take things out that maybe aren't congruent with what we want to be. But maybe there's things that we say to ourselves that are debris. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely, man.
And so as you're saying that, like I can just picture them saying that and convincing themselves that it's just one more mile. And I think that maybe as you're saying that, Mike, I'm thinking there's probably a whole script of negative things that I've consumed.
Well, so
that I need to delete, you know? Compare
this to me, right? So I'm hearing that story yesterday. So we've got a spin here. We got a spin cycle here in the house. And so, spin bike, or I don't know what those things
spin cycle called. That's the washing machine, maybe.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I'm like, wait, that sounds like, and you're like, hey Mike, everybody has a washing machine in the house.
And that doesn't count as a workout, dude, when you press the spin cycle.
Yeah. So I'm on this thing, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I get on one of those classes, right? Come on. Like, I've never been in a spin class, but I mean, these people, I don't know where they come from, but like, and they're like, and now we're up. I'm like, whoa, we're up? Like, we're out of the seat. And and so the thing's like 45 minutes long, right? And I'm like, okay, I'll get it half an hour, right? I'm gonna give this thing a half an hour. I gotta ease into this, right? Things you tell yourself.
Right.
Gonna ease in. And then you get to 20 minutes, like, yeah, that's 20 minutes better than nothing. Like, I'm done. And I hop off the bike, and then I go talk to this guy, and he's like, yeah, 2 miles in on a marathon. And I'm like, done. And I'm like, oh, so you were done. You finished. I mean, you quit. And he's like, no, you don't quit. I guess you don't quit.
Yeah.
I guess everyone else quits.
Yeah. I mean,
but pretty remarkable story.
It is a good story. Yeah.
And, you know, I'm reading this book called Upstream by Dan Heath.
Okay.
And the idea is that we solve problems before they become problems, right? You look upstream from the problem and you try to be proactive. And as I'm reading it, it's really about, it's really designed for professional development. But as I'm reading it, I'm looking at some of the personal development connections. And it's exactly that, Tyler. Like, I can look ahead and be like, okay, Mike says he's going to get skinny, and you can predict. And then pretty soon it's like, okay, Mike, you're going to start to tell yourself this. And then you're going to start to tell yourself this, and working upstream to try to protect Mike Freeman from the thing Mike Freeman tells Mike Freeman.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. You pick up a good word. I think it's the work. you know, when you think, oh man, I got to put time and work and effort into this. And I've been trying to tell myself, like, look, it's like you're saying, look ahead. I got to be healthy for my kids, my grandkids, my wife. And, you know, I started to get some you know, some health issues and stuff like that. And I'm only 52. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta start changing things. My cholesterol was through the roof, and I didn't even think about it. You know, I've always been healthy my whole life and all that fun stuff. And yeah, now I just did some retests, and oh man, night and day difference, you know?
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay.
Man.
So help me out. What does the work look like, Bryan?
So what it is I just started to cut one of my favorite beverages is Diet Coke, you know, or something, or whatever, a diet soda. And I started cutting that, only trying to do it on the weekends. And then I was in the military, and the VA is doing a study with me because my knees, and man, if there's a person that's had some surgeries, I've had some Achilles surgeries, some shoulders.
Ooh, Achilles.
You name it, man. I've had something touched here and there, you know, by a doctor. So he's like, you got to get healthy, my friend. And so I've changed my diet, and I just feel so much better and easier and lighter, you know. Yeah. And when I'm hitting the weights, it just feels a little bit better, you know. I can do a few more reps. It's not as heavy weight, but I can do more reps. And, you know, I always have this thing, you look good, you play good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that though, man. I do think that there's like, maybe there's a tipping point, right? Like you put in enough work and the work becomes, I don't know, like, I don't want to say easy, but easier, or, you know, maybe it's the mindset, right?
Yeah.
That shifts for us, because I'm with you, Mike. I think it's easy. I mean, I've done that, right? I'm on a run and I'm like, okay, I've got X amount of distance left, and then I'm done. And then you get half of that distance. You're like, you know what? That's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like that's not bad. And I'm going to be walking up this hill anyway. So, you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, I'm a believer in that talk that you tell yourself. I mean, I believe in that when it comes to like my own, like, personal development, you know, but I think physical development is the same way. I mean, Mike, you and I talked about this, right? You go to the doctor says, hey man, your cholesterol's off the charts, your blood pressure is high, and you walk out of there, you're freaking out. You're like, oh my gosh, dude, I got to change some stuff. Like 3 days later, you're in the drive-through of In-N-Out getting a double, you know, because you're just like, ooh, that was scary for a couple hours, but I'm done now, you know?
Yeah, I have a blind spot. I'm not gonna lie, and I think I need to listen to Bryan. Bryan, you're not the first person I'm hearing. As I got Bryan in front of me, I'm thinking of Carzoli,
right?
Right, and I'm thinking of the lessons he taught me. And it's like, hey, when are you gonna get it? Like the universe is saying, put the Twix down, and you know, and make some changes. And then looking at the town today, Tyler, just that comment about baby step.
Yeah.
You know, and just looking at health as a matter of choice, and can we make some little choices here and there that are going to keep us around longer? Because really, in the end, that is the goal.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, it's funny. I gotta show you guys this real quick. You can kind of see it's called the fittest of the fit.
Yeah.
And it's a trophy for between it was a trophy that a Navy SEAL he brought up. And you know, as a Navy SEAL, I was a prior Army Ranger, and headquarters was opening these positions, and they said, hey, they called me and saw my PT test, like, hey, is these test results real? I'm like, yeah. And they said, hey, we got this SEAL Team 6 guy up here, we want you to come and crush. That was they said, if you can beat him, you're coming. And sure enough, I moved over there. So we had this big PT test, and I crushed this Navy SEAL. It was the best one of the days. So he had this trophy, and he's like, all right, you can hang on to that, but you won't be able to keep that forever. I've had that thing for, I think, 18 years now. So every once in a while,
hold up, Bryan. I gotta push pause here for a second. We're gonna get into you and your story and your life, but I just gotta highlight, when I hear excellence, right? When I hear excellence in someone's life, can we go right to what led you to be an Army Ranger? Can we just go there for a second? Because that's some elite territory there, right? I was about to commend you for your service in military when you mentioned it, but now we're talking about an Army Ranger, and I'm like, hold up. Talk to me about that real quick.
Yeah, it's a good story, man. My dad, my stepdad actually, he was special ops his whole career, special forces, kind of helped start up Delta Force way back in the day. And at first I was like, I'm never gonna join the Army. I'm not an Army guy. I'm an athlete. I'm gonna play pro football for the Cowboys. and he's like, no, you need to go in the military and gain some discipline and da 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 da. And things kind of went different for me. And I all of a sudden I got a wild hair, and I said, I'm gonna go join the Army. So I went in the recruiter myself and said, hey, I want to be an airborne ranger. He's like, oh no, you don't want to be that. You just want to do this. I'm like, no, I want to be an airborne ranger. My dad's a retired special forces officer with 40 years in. I got some big shoes to fill. And he's like, no, we can't. We don't have any of those contracts. So I went home and I told my dad, I'm like, hey, Dad, I was just at the recruiter, and his jaw dropped. He's like, what? He's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, here's this card. And he's like, whoa, what'd you do there? I was like, well, I asked him if I could be an airborne ranger to see if I liked it. And what did he say? He's like, no, he kind of told me to, get out of here. You can't have that. You're not qualified for that. My dad gets on the phone. He goes, listen here, Sergeant. This is retired Colonel Laritz, and my son, well, by the time I get down there, you better have an airborne ranger contract for him, because if not, I'm going to call your boss and their boss, and I'm going to go all the way to the 4-star general, and then they're going to call you and give you a direct order to get him a ranger slot. In 2 weeks, I was at basic training with a ranger slot.
No way. That's crazy. Wow. So how old were you, Bryan, when you went into when you joined the service?
23.
23.
Yeah. Yep.
Crazy.
And it was an eye opener. I'd never done anything like that in my life. It was amazing. By the time I got there to Ranger Battalion in Washington State, I'd gone through some other schools. You got to go through basic airborne training, and then you go to pre-ranger school, and they see if you can make it. And I got honor grad through all these things. And so like, oh,
what does see if you can make it look like?
Oh God.
I can only imagine, right?
It's like 2 weeks of, like hell week for the SEALs, and they smoke you, get no sleep. You're just like road marching, you're doing field problems, you get smoke push-ups in the mud, and they're just making you all over the place. And
I'm out. I got that.
I'm just like, I always have a smile on my face, because that's just how I get through things. I just smile, and they hated me for that. But what's funny is they're like, no, we're going to keep you here and put you at a desk because you have some college. I'm like, oh, sir, I can't be a desk jockey, man. I want to be a ranger. I want to shoot guns. I'm loving this. She's like, who do you think you are? I'm like, well, sir, you see that picture of the Ranger Hall of Fame on there? You see the 10th guy on there? Yeah, it's Captain Laritz. I'm like, well, that just happens to be my stepdad. He didn't believe me. I was like, if you just give me one phone call, I would really like to get the 2nd Battalion in Fort Lewis, Washington, be near my old man and stuff like that. He's like, shut up. He was lying. He thought I was lying. So I'm doing push-ups, sit-ups. I'm soaking wet because they think I'm lying. So he's like, get up, make that call. I'm like, yes, sir. So I get on the phone call. I'm like, hey, Pops, this captain's giving me a rough time saying I'm lying about you and that I'm trying to get to 2nd Battalion. They want to keep me here for college. He's like, what? Who is this captain? He's like, give me 10 minutes. This is the privilege of officers, your dads. Later, the 2-star general from the base calls him and he says, let me explain something to you. When Ranger Beverley says this is his dad, that's his dad. Get him a contract to Fort Lewis, Washington. I don't want to hear anything else. Click.
Oh, no way. That's crazy.
Next day, I was in Fort Lewis.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, crazy stuff. But, you got to earn it. And
he opens the door for you, but you got to earn it.
Yeah, he checked on me a few times, make sure I was getting my butt whooped and earning my keep. And
yeah.
Great times, man. I got some good buddies out of there.
So Bryan, and I think we're probably going to dive into this deeper, but I got to ask, I mean, how long were you in the service?
For 4 years.
For 4 years. And yeah. I'm imagining there's, in order to get through something like that, right? The training and just the time in general, because I think you were there during a time when there was some stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on. Not that there's not now, but you were kind of in the middle of it. There's got to be some things that you got to be telling yourself to get through those things, right?
Whew. Yeah, it was, I just got off a mission, a few years before that. And I'd finished up at Rick's College, and I was going to go to Boise State to run track and stuff. That all fell through. So that's when I went in the Ranger Battalion. But while I was in there, it's a challenging place for, especially for members of the church and the standards that I have. And there was maybe a couple other members in there, and it was, it got rough with a lot of the craziness in there, and it made it challenging, because even though, I went on a mission, I was able to go to Brisbane, Australia, and Papua New Guinea, but man, it was still challenging, and my goal was to become a Delta Force operator. That was my focus. Nothing else but to be that elite soldier. I'm like, I'm going to press my dad. He got me here. I'm like, I'm in, and so I went to some schools. I went to prisoner war school. I'll tell you that school, if there is one school that really woke me up mentally, physically, spiritually, was that school. You spend a month in that school, you learn it's called SEER school, survival, evade, resist, and escape school. And they take you through these phases. And at the end, they stick you in a prison camp, and it's, it's reality, man. I got beat. I got stuffed in a waterboard, stuffed in a hole of water, sprayed like I was treated like a prisoner.
Yeah.
They tortured you, and you start thinking like, I'm in this little cell getting yelled at, babies crying in speakers 24/7, and you're getting tortured, beat up, knocked out, and they're trying to get information out of you and stuff like that. And, you look at your buddy, you're like, what am I doing? Is this reality, or is like, what's going on? And you're in these cells and in the school, and you just start to think like, oh my gosh, this is real stuff, and they're training you how to overcome, if you get caught overseas, because being overseas, it's, you've heard about these nightmares, and the beheadings and the all these things, the American soldiers, and, they would love to catch one of us over there, a Ranger or a special ops guy and a SEAL, or, like they did Black Hawk Down,
Yeah.
like those guys, and it's just, so you make it real, and you got to really learn and become a man and kind of ranger up is what we call it, and suck it up through a lot of these things. And you're like, damn, but you become so tight with your buddies, because you've gone through so many of those things together, and you look at him, you're like, man, that guy's got my 6, and I got his 6, and
yeah,
we're gonna have this thing, so it was a great experience, to be able to go through that. And a couple things that in my mind I was going through that, but I got selected to go through this Q course and stuff like that. And then, because my dad, I had a red carpet through there, I was just making a phone call, even though I didn't want to, I wanted to earn my own way. But, and I kept thinking, something kept in my mind. I'm like, Bryan, this is not this, you're going about this wrong, and in about year 2, we were getting ready to invade Haiti. We're at Gitmo Bay, and we're sitting there, and we had a prayer group, a church, Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints prayer group, and there was 3 of us. There was a Captain Poffenberger and a Brian Norton. And I said, hey, your name's Brian? Yeah, my name's Brian, and well, how do you spell it? It's a Y. Mine's a Y. What's your mom's name? Kathy. Well, my name's Kathy. And we became buddies, like tight,
Yeah.
and he was dating this girl, Patty, we did all these things together, and he was a member of the church, and he hadn't gone on a mission, became really tight, and because he's the only member I knew, and so we became really good friends. And I stayed over their house, and it's crazy how these stories work, all of a sudden his wife at the time says, hey, I got a sister you need to meet. I'm like, oh, really? Her name's Janette. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I'd like to meet her, and so voila, there's my eternal companion, in the military.
No way.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I met Janette, and and it was, I could see, I was like, yep, she's the one, and she was my angel, and she Heavenly Father put her in my life to, I guess, save me, and
Wow.
Get me in that direction. That's a bit like a hinge point for me.
Yeah.
Get me back direction I needed to go, because I was headed down that, that path of I don't know what would happen,
Well, I can imagine, I can imagine in those circumstances, pretty easy to, lose your way a little bit.
Oh yeah. It's rough, because, the guys like to party, and they like to be together all the time. And you're a very tight knit. You don't want to be that outcast, but what was really cool is they knew I was a member of the church. And I'll share this with you. After I got married, maybe we'll go back to Janette or something on that story. But, I had 3 things that happened to me in the military. And for some reason, I learned the hard way. I don't know about you guys, but I just learned the hard way.
Like it that way.
It takes 2 or 3 times for me to learn and change, So I'm still thinking, all right, I got my wife. I did the right thing. I got we're going to have a kids, and I got married in the temple. I'm like, all right, I can still do my thing. And one night we were jumping out of an airplane, and
not you and your wife, just you and the Rangers, right?
Remember, all these stories are just training, okay?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, let me just process that. I don't hear that story. I don't hear his stories start out like that very often.
Yeah, one night I was jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah, I totally relate, Bryan. I totally relate.
There it was one night, pitch black, flying over an objective. And I saw the green light go. I'm like, sweet, go. We start going out the airplane, and that's my favorite feeling. But I always say a prayer right before I go out. Please open, please open, please open. And then you feel the parachute open, like, oh, thank goodness. But and then I'm probably about 100 feet or so from you can start hearing people hit the ground. You're like, oh, and you're like, oh man, here it comes. And all of a sudden, my air from my parachute just disappears, and I just start falling. And I went right through this guy. He went right underneath me, stole my air. I went right through his parachute and just exploded on the ground, and all my stuff's everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, knocked me out. My helmet's over there. I broke my weapon in half. I couldn't believe it. My leg is bruised. I'm like, oh, what happened? And I start screaming. I'm like, Private, you didn't go. You went the wrong way. You stole my hair. And I couldn't breathe. It knocked the wind out of me. And so I stumbled into the where we're doing our mission, and somehow make it through the mission with a bad headache. And I was like, guys, I frapped in, man. I don't know what happened. I don't even know if I have all my stuff. My night vision, everything's all jacked up and cracked. And I said, I broke my weapon. I need a new weapon. And they're like, man, Bev, did you even open your chute or anything? I'm like, it opened. So I get through that, and I tell my wife, like, man, that was a crazy experience. And then, no kidding, about 2 weeks later, we're doing this training objective. And the way we do is we set in a base of fire, and we go left or right to assault an objective, And so they're shooting all this cool stuff. All the weapons are amazing. And I take my team around the left to come up to the objective, and I start shooting, and then they let off, and then we kind of go through the objective and clean up and try to, do things there.
Right. Yeah, we got you.
Blow through there. And as we're going through, I look to my right, and all of a sudden I see a burst of rounds coming at us. And I'm like, get out. And it's like the movies, like all these rounds just ricocheting all around us and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I look over, I'm like, that's our own guys. What's he shooting at us for? I'm like, geez. And somehow all those rounds missed us. And well, we had some vests and stuff, so it protects you and your helmet, stuff like that. It might have hit a few things here and there, but we're like, whoa, that was close. But that private that night, we made him write letters to our parents, made him quit, because we can't put up with that. We can't make those kind of errors. So I was telling my wife that, and I'm like, man, that's like 2 strikes, Janette. I'm getting a little nervous about being in this place. And she goes, yeah, maybe we should start thinking about something else. And no kidding. Okay, here's the last one. The third incident, I love to blow things up and shoot things and be the first guy in. And so we jump in this objective. And you ever heard what a Bangalore is? It's like back in Vietnam, you hook these bombs and you slide them under stuff so they can blow up, and you can enter in. Okay. So me and my buddy are hooking one of these up. I'm like, this is going to be so sweet. It's going to blow everything up and we're going to be able to get in. So we hook it up and we slide it under this big old wall and fence and stuff because we're trying to be quiet and all this chaos is going, you got helicopters up above you shooting missiles, and all the brass is falling on you, and your night vision, you look around and you see all these bullets and stuff going everywhere. It's like a Ranger's dream, man. That's what we dream. and then we are like, you ready? He pops the pin, and I'm like, go. Boom! That thing opens like a it's just a big old
Wow.
place that we can enter. So we go flying in and start taking our bunker. We were trying to take a bunker out. So I go up to the bunker and I look, and I get hit, and I fall about 12 feet in. Everyone piles on me, and I'm like, get off. And you're so adrenalized that you don't even realize I just smashed the ground, banged everything up. I'm like stumbling back. And so we're taking fire and stuff, and we're trying to get through, and it's like a big circle. So we got to take out these 3 points where there's big machine guns. And so we start moving down the wall, and we got our night vision and all that stuff, and we're shooting and stuff. And we come up to a T intersection. I'm like, hey, need a grenade. And so I give him the signal. He comes up with a grenade, and he pops the first pin, and then we go back, we do some signals, say, hey, cover your night vision, and here it goes. And he throws it, but he didn't cook it off. Usually we go like 1,000, 2,003 and cook it off. It hit a beam, bounced back, and I looked down, and I'm like, frag out, boom. That's all I remember is a big white flash. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden I start hearing, Bev, you all right? I'm like, whoa, what happened? I'm thinking I'm like dead. I'm like, am I somewhere else?
Yeah.
Calling my name. I'm hoping I'm in the right place. And my buddies are like, Bev, you all right? I'm like, oh, what happened? He's like, we got blown up by a grenade. I'm like, what? How do we get blown up by a grenade? Our own guy, he didn't cook it off. I'm like, oh man, you got to be kidding me. And so the coolest thing about it, nothing penetrates through my vest, except for a hip. I got about a dime size piece in. I guess my shirt was up or something. And then all the shrapnel went into my calves. It was a big turning point to tell myself, Brian, I think I'm focused in the wrong area. And my wife, it's a big hinge point, man, to go to a different career.
Yeah, that's got to be a big change. I imagine that going in, it just from the career path that your stepdad took, right? That he had 40 years in the service. I got to imagine that was probably what you were thinking going into that.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I'm the hardest thing ever was telling him, hey, Dad, I think I'm gonna get out, and he lost his mind.
Really?
Yeah, he said, he didn't even talk to me for a year probably.
Wow.
But I told him, hey, look, Dad, you know what my next dream job is I've always wanted to be in the Secret Service. I want to be one of those guys with the black glasses and say,
yeah,
POTUS is on the move. So that's what I did, man.
That's crazy. So Bryan, there's a lot in that story that I want to touch on, but I think, can we rewind? Mike, are you okay with that too? I want to rewind and kind of go back to
I'm dying to know. I was actually just wondering. So, right, like, what does this look like? I mean, number one, well done, tactfully telling us probably like top secret classified stuff.
Right.
They were training exercises in undisclosed locations, but I am dying to know what this guy looked like when he was 12, right? Or like, what did growing up look like? What did parental influence look like? Because there's that argument, right? Are leaders, are they made? Are they born? Right? Is it like the battles that you fought? How much of it is physical? How much of it is mental? Where does that discipline come from? I'm all in, right? I gotta learn more about this guy, Tyler.
Yeah. So Bryan, I totally agree, Mike. So let's hit the rewind button and start from the beginning. Can you give us a little bit of background about, kind of your childhood growing up and what that looked like?
Yeah, it was, it wasn't the best childhood. I gotta give you that. It was pretty rough. My real dad was a Vietnam vet and had some real bad PTSD, and Agent Orange kind of jacked him up a bit. Greatest, softest guy, but man, he just couldn't let go of the drugs and alcohol and get over that. So, I have a brother and a sister, and growing up, I'm the oldest. And, it was just rough seeing my parents fight, or my dad would come home from work and then he'd say, hey, I'm going to go get some groceries. He wouldn't come home till like 1 o'clock in the morning, drunk off his butt. And I was always worried about him. And, my brother and sister, I'd have to hide him in the room and push like the toy box and stuff against the door so my dad couldn't come in because he's drunk, and try to just drunk. My mom didn't want him in his room, so he'd try to come in our room, and I would hold the door and hide my sister and brother in the closet because I just didn't ever want them to see him drunk and stuff like that, and it was embarrassing for me I wanted them to think of their dad like, a good guy. And, so it was rough growing up. And, we're on food stamps. I'd always go in the store and get them for my mom. I'd take my brother and sister and get the food so she wouldn't be embarrassed. And, with that, I'd always get tons of treats. So I didn't mind going and getting tons of sodas for my brother and sisters and sister and I. And, and we kind of lived like that for a while. My dad was in and out of jobs and got beat up here and there, he'd get arrested and all this stuff. And my mom, I could tell she'd had enough. And she had this corner of the house she'd always sit, and it was real sunny, and she'd sit there and pick her split ends, and and I could see her crying, and I was like, God, I hate this. What can I do to help my mom? Because me and my mom are really tight from all this, and we grew up strong, and my mom, she's part Japanese, and in fact her mom was in a Japanese internment camp. And so we grew up really, really strong work ethic. You got to work for what you want and what you were, and earn what, and you can see what you've earned and you have in your life. And so I've always had a strong working with my grandpa in the summer and stuff. I always had my mom would ship me out, not ship me out, send me to my grandpa's. And so I'd work on the farm in the summers and just spend tons of time with him. And the man was just amazing. He's my idol. My grandpa, his name's Kazu Sakota, and my grandma Chiemi. They were both, grew up the hard way, acre to acre, lost everything when the war, grew up acre to acre, moved to Idaho after after all the crazy war and internment camps and stuff. And acre by acre, they grew up a farm, and, 500 acres of potatoes and 700 acres of grain later.
Wow.
A bunch of cool John Deere tractors, there we are. I'm learning as I'm growing up. I'm loving this stuff because I loved going to the summers and working with my grandpa, and and it kept me in shape for sports and stuff. And he'd teach me how to throw a ball and stuff, where your dad teaches you that stuff, but my grandpa would teach me. And, so I had my own John Deere tractor, had my own 270. I'd drive 2 hours, 10, 11-year-old driving a big old John Deere tractor up the farmland, shooting whatever I want to shoot, driving, discing, at 12, 13 years old,
that doesn't get much better than that. I can imagine. Bryan, where were you growing up? When you were, where did mom and dad live?
We started in, I was born in California, in LA. And then we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah there, Redwood, just near this big post office down there. And, oh man, still have some good buddies down there, from way back in the day. And
how old were you when you guys moved out to Utah?
We were, I was 5, and then my sister, I was 5. And then we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah there, with my dad. I kind of picked a lot of this up from my mom, living with his dad, my grandpa. And then finally he got a place, and we got a place on Redwood Road, and I lived next to my cousins and stuff. It was, it was awesome to go and learn from my grandpa. I spent a lot of time there. And then finally, my parents got separated. I was telling you about my mom in this corner. Mm-hmm. I always saw her there, and we would talk, and like, Mom, you just gotta, let's go to grandpa's and get away from this. And, I don't like to see you like this. I want to see you happy. And, and I know dad's struggling. I don't know what to do there. And I was like, you can take the brother and sister, and I'll just stay with dad, and try to figure it out. And so, my parents ended up getting divorced. And, cause my dad went into hospital, he had something wrong with him. I thought he was going to die right in front of me. I'm at 10 years old. I'm trying to call, my mom's gone. Brother and sister are crying. I'm like, oh, what do I do? And so I'm running, calling 911, trying to figure things out, and I had to grow up fast, and learn how to survive.
Yeah. And let me ask you, how old are you when you're having that conversation with your mom, sitting in the sunny spot of the house, talking about making changes?
About 10, 11 years old.
10 or 11 years old. So Mike, you said a few minutes ago, you said, are leaders born or are they made? And first of all, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will say that circumstance sure plays a role, right? And maybe obviously not everyone reacts the same to the same circumstances, right? We could all be put in different things, and You know, I can tell you right now that there's a lot of things that Bryan Beverley that would do that I'd probably curl up in a ball and cry. I don't know. You know what I mean?
But I'm even thinking like I'm on the born side when I hear that story. Like I'm on the like Bryan Beverley comes to this world with some strengths and
prepared
some
for some stuff.
and he's wired to protect, and he's wired to and that plays out in his adult life, wearing a uniform for his country and doing the things that he needs to do to protect freedom and but like at 10 years old, he's paying attention to mom in the corner.
Yeah.
And he's looking around his world. 10-year-old, you've got limited control. And he's trying to look at what he can lift. He's trying to look at what he can do around him. He's trying to look at what he can influence. That feels innate. That feels like, Bryan comes into this life like I'm here to protect people. Like that's my gift, right?
I like that thought.
That's cool. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I like that thought a lot. And I think,
I mean, how old were you when you're taking the toy box and putting it in front of the door?
Same, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, right. And you're trying to protect your siblings from seeing their dad like that. Like, who thinks like that?
Yeah, that's a great point.
I would be in the corner peeing my pants because, oh no, dad's come home drunk again, right? Yeah. I mean, I think, Tyler, if we turn the spotlight on you and you started talking about when you were younger, we'd see the strengths that play out in your adult life, Yep. I mean, I think the strengths you can go get.
Yeah.
Some of these things, you're just like,
they're there
from day one.
And maybe we have to be put in the right spot or have the right pressure applied to be able to see that strength manifest itself, maybe. But I agree with you that it does sound innate, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I think of sometimes the adversity unlocks that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe there's something in us that's dormant, and then a situation presents itself and we rise up and it's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it sounds like from an early age, Bryan, you had to step up and have some conversations. I'll tell you right now, you had conversations with your mom at the age of 10 that I don't know if a lot of grown A people can have right now.
Right? Yeah, 100%. Yeah. 100%. And it's interesting because, you mentioned earlier, Bryan, you said, my mom and I were really close. And I mean, well, yeah, right. I mean, the circumstances and the conversations and what kind of 10-year-old or 11-year-old says, hey, take my brother and sister and get out and I'll hang with dad and we'll see where this ends up. What? Like, I'm like saying, hey, I got a soccer game I got to be at. And, and my G.I. Joes are over next door. I'd like to pick those up before we bail out. You know what I mean?
And like, hey, mom, what's for dinner? Hey, could you stop crying? I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly.
Like, seriously. And then here's the ironic thing about life, right? It gets piled on.
Yeah.
Like, I can take this weight, and God, circumstances, you get more weight. And more weight and more weight. I'm thinking of Dave Speck's kids last week.
Right.
And his son had he had a back surgery, and now he's having a pacemaker put in as a teenager. And it's just like, I'm thinking from the outside, can this kid get a break? And he's inside saying he's been conditioned to handle this. I'm worried about his heart, and he's fine. And young Bryan is like, he gets this, and then the hits just keep on coming, right? And thank goodness for Grandpa.
Yeah.
Oh,
Does it kind of remind you of the Jordan Peterson quote, right? It's the
burdens.
The purpose of
how much
life
can you hold?
The heaviest thing you can bear, and to bear it,
Yeah.
And that's
and careful, because that's really limitless.
It is limitless. But I think it also goes back to this idea that we've talked about on this show before, which is capacity. Right. I think that we, when we go through something tough, we say, well, that was tough. That was unbearable. That was the hardest thing I'll ever go through. Right. But it's almost like, working out, right? Now there's some more that you can do,
Well, and I'm listening, and I don't know about you, Tyler, but as I'm listening to Bryan, I'm like, whatever petty thing you thought you had that you were carrying coming into this conversation with Bryan Beverley, it's like, hey, fatty. Come on. You can do more, Mike Freeman, right? You can step up. And that's honestly, every experience I've had with somebody that's familiar with excellence, that's how I feel when I'm around them.
Well,
and that's why I launched with the Army Ranger, because when you say that, I'm listening. That's like, whoa.
Yeah.
This person's acquainted with what it takes to be excellent. Not good, not great, like top 1% of anybody doing anything.
I totally agree. Bryan, let's so at this point you're 11 years old, or give or take, and you guys head off to live with Grandpa in Idaho. Is that the where we're at?
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about those years with Grandma and Grandpa and
best years of my life. I love that. I just, I'm with Grandpa every day. I'm going to the farm. I'm moving pipe. I'm in school, and my mom's happier. My sister and brother, and then all of a sudden, while we're doing that, my dad gets custody of my little brother. And I was like, supposed to be me. You can't take him. It's got to be me. He can't go through this stuff, but I couldn't change it, man. He didn't want me. And so it kind of made me mad, because I'm like, wait, you don't want me? You want Kish? Because what the heck? I'm the one that's been protecting these family, and I want to keep protecting them. But he got my younger brother, and man, to this day, my mom, I know she regrets it, and I know it's had an impact in his life, psychologically, mentally, physically, but man, that kid is one of the best kids, so he had to go with dad, and my sister and I went with my mom, and we tried to my mom tried to go down and get him with my grandpa, and when my dad was in and out of jail, and my dad had some buddies that would not let him go. They kept hiding him and moving him, and so we couldn't find him for a while. But here's that story. And then my sister and I, we're back in Idaho. My mom's doing all right. She struggling with that. She's working, and I'm working on the farm, and I'm I'm telling my grandpa, don't give me the money, Grandpa, just funnel it into my mom, so she thinks she's, and pay for whatever. And because I don't need that stuff. I just, I need some shoes and things here and there, but my mom needs that happiness to feel comfortable. And like she's, we're in a trailer house behind my grandpa's house that he bought for us. And we have it good, we're having meals, my mom's working, and then all of a sudden, man, this dude rolls up in our house. Hey, this is Colonel Larritz. I'm like, what? Who's this guy? He's like, your mom's gonna marry him. I'm like, whoa, this isn't happening, man. I'm the man here. He's not. But then I learned awfully quick who was the man. Whoa, I had to take a step back. This guy had been through some stuff that I'd never even thought of. And and all of a sudden we pack up and we're headed to Panama, Central America. I'm like,
whoa. How old were you at this point, Bryan?
I was, 14? Let's see, 13, almost 14.
Whoa. 13. This guy comes into your life in rural Idaho. And the next thing you know, you're heading to Central America.
Panama. Yep. I'm like, Mom, what's going on, Mom? I'm like, well, he's, and bless his heart, I never knew this until not, maybe quite a few years back, not too many, but he was the one taking care of my mom and was helping her out and saying, look, you gotta move back he's the one that pushed her to move to my grandparents and get away from the situation. And he helped her out a lot. And man, I'll tell you what, I'm so glad that this guy came into my life, because he gave me some discipline. He became my father and taught me some good stuff,
Hey, Bryan, do you ever play that game? What if, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if, like, bless your mom's heart and she's doing it. And I'm thinking cream rises to the top every time. So you would have been fine. But can you imagine what your life would have been like if that doesn't happen?
Yep.
Panama. Dude, okay, I'm super jealous because on my bucket list, I'm obsessed with the locks.
Oh, dude.
I'm obsessed with the canal, man. Don't even get me started. That'll be an hour.
Mike just wants to wear a white linen suit with a fedora. That's what he's looking for.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
But hey, let me ask you this question, Bryan, because before we take the jump into Panama, I'm curious about what faith looked like in your home as a young boy.
That's a good question. I had some good buddies, man, and they would come every Sunday and pick me up and take me to church, because I was like shy, and I'm like, man, I don't know, I'm not a Mormon, I'm not a churchy guy, even though when I was in Utah, if one day, if I can just meet this one angel, this lady, she would come across our street and ask if she could take me and my sister to church. And every Sunday she'd come pick us up or try or leave something. And she'd take us to church because she knew something that we needed, that because our family was struggling, and my mom appreciated that. And she was a member just of the church, but not active, and but she would always let us go, and we'd go to Sunday school and all that. So it was there, it was there.
Yeah,
I got it. So when I went to Sugar City, Idaho, that's where my grandparents live out there, just outside of Rexburg, and I still call it Rick's College. It's BYU. Some good buddies, and one of them's Brent, Kelly, and Brett. Three guys and a couple of the girls, and they would come and pick me up and take me to church, and I was like, this is so cool, and I never got it, I was like, this is amazing. I got some cool friends, and we play ball, and and loving life. And they never asked. I thought I was a member of the church. I just never been baptized, So I grew up thinking that. I'm like, yeah, I'm a member. They're like, oh, cool, not thinking anything. And then that's when my mom met him, and man, I'm gone, but while I'm in Panama, I'm keeping in touch with Brent, Kelly, and Brett, and Carol Lee, and a couple of those people that just, kept in touch with me to make sure I was all right. And, and there we were in Panama,
Wow.
Can I ask really quick? We talk a little bit about, you mentioned that your mom was a member of the church. But she wasn't active. Did you see faith in your mom?
Oh yeah, she's such a great woman. She just taught me how to be humble and laugh and have a smile. She always would try to have a smile on her face and say things are gonna be okay. Positive outlook. Don't look negative, and don't. I expect you to be better and grow and be strong. And I was like, yes, mom. I always, I would always call her when we were out dinking around somewhere in Panama, probably where I was supposed to be. And before the weekend, I called, I was like, hey, mom, I'm okay. You okay? Because I always was afraid, like, man, if my mom passed away, I'm going to be a wreck. Will I ever see her again? What will happen? Now I'm stuck with this army guy. That's I'm afraid of,
Right.
Kind of scary, man. He's got all these things on, a green beret, and man, just mean dude.
Did Panama, was he in service in Panama then? Is that what took him to Panama?
Yeah, we served down this area. If you ever look in Panama, you see the big Panamanian flag. We lived right below that on a base called Corey Heights. And we lived right next door to a 4-star general who my old man was he was always working with and doing war planning and special ops and this and that. So many times he'd come home, hey, you might want to watch the news. I'm like, what? Sure enough, man, something going on.
That's wild, man.
He'd have a little smile on his face, like, yeah, that was me.
So in Panama, how long were you in Panama?
4.5 years, most of my high school.
Okay, 13 to about 17, or somewhere in that range. Yeah.
But on a base, right? So you are with the other Americans going to school?
So we're going off base to it's called Balboa High School, a Dodge school. So Panamanians and Americans all went to the school. Huge school, huge.
And Bryan, you mentioned that while growing up in Idaho, you had these friends, Brent and Kelly and Brett and Carol Lee, and the assumption maybe from them is that you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. when the reality is you weren't officially anyway.
Yeah, I think they knew that, but I didn't.
Okay. All right. So they knew that you didn't.
Yeah.
At what point can you talk a little bit about your faith journey and what that looks like, especially in those years in Panama? Because I'm just sort of like trying to process this idea of, and again, maybe this is a character thing, like, right, but I'm processing this idea of leaving Salt Lake to go to Idaho. You feel like you're in this idyllic spot, and then now you're in a foreign country with new dad, great guy, right? New dad, but it's a new dad, right? It's a new experience, and
it's foreign.
And it's foreign. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
It's not like you're maybe in Europe and it maybe looks like, it doesn't look like Idaho anymore.
No, this is the Noriega era, if you guys remember that.
Oh,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
I actually met him on the base. It's a crazy story, that one, but I got to tell you that one.
All right. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like? I'm just curious how you find yourself in a position that you say, I'd like to think about going on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
You know, what's funny is through that whole Panama experience, I never went to church at all. I never even really thought about it. My mom never pushed anything. She let us make the decisions, but there was a pastor there that me and my buddies, the buddies I still have to this day, and they're Lee, John, and John Sampson, Brandon Santiago. We were really tight, you know, and we became what we called the bros. That was our surfing name.
Love
and stuff.
It.
Yeah. There's about 8 or 9 of us, and we hung out, and we would always go to this pastor, and he would teach us life lessons, you know, and he's like, so what do you guys think about this and that, and where are you at in your life? And you know, he was the great, I call him Santa Claus because he had a white beard, looked like Santa Claus. He'd take us out to eat and, you know, and just spend time with us and see what we're doing with our lives and where we're going and what we're thinking. And we all had great times with him, you know, but I felt like I was, you know, the one question I'd ask him, like, so I said, hey, if my mom dies or if I die, will I ever see her again? And that question kept bothering me because he'd run circles around with me and not really answer me. And I just didn't get it, you know, and I was paranoid. So every time I went somewhere, I had to find a payphone or something. And I'd call my mom and say, Mom, I'm okay. Are you okay? Because I just had to hear her voice and stuff. And even though I'm down the beach, Costa Rica or wherever we end up, you know, going crazy, you know, I'm not even a member. I don't have the you know, guys are out partying, you know, and I'm trying to think, you know what, this doesn't look the greatest, you know, environment and stuff like that. I always had that in the back of my head. And but you know, I had my fair share of fun out there with my buddies, you know, and we spent a lot of years through Panama. And you know, I got to meet Noriega when he came up to our base on a change of general command. Two of the biggest, General Gorman and Galvin, man, they are some big, tough generals, and it was so cool to watch that. And what was funny is
so this is like Manuel Noriega, like the political leader of Panama.
Yeah. So a quick side note on that, you know, tensions are getting big and heavy over there, you know, and at times we had to stay on base, and we're like, this sucks, you know, especially as a teenager, you know, I want to go out and surf and party and go to the beach and, you know, play sports and all that. And it got held up a couple times. We're like, look, Dad, just go in and get him, man. Just go get him. And then I find out he's coming on the base, like, Dad, guess what? I'm a minor. You want me to take him out? He's like, whoa, what are you doing? Shush. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. He's like, oh, I can't believe you just said that. You know, it was so funny. You know, I'm a kid. I'm thinking like him, you know?
Right.
And so funny story on this, I got to tell you, you guys are going to die. So there we are, all of us, you know, we're out riding our bike down this causeway thing, and we fall through this gate, and we're like, oh man, what's this gate? So we look in and we're like, oh man, it's like prison cells with people locked up in their bones. We're like, this is crazy. And it stinks like dead people. And we're like, I don't think we're supposed to be here. So what we do, we went back home. We write up this big op order. So I get my dad's green beret. I got all his camouflage on. We have a 4-star general son with us. in his jet, 4 stars. We're all in our dad's BDUs, right?
Wait, can you tell this story right now? Like, is this allowed?
Yeah, I can tell. No, you got in trouble. But anyway,
It's like a statute of limitations or something. You're good.
This is good, man. You're gonna die. So we were like, all right, let's write this thing, because all our dads are special ops, stuff like that. So we're writing these plans. We're like, let's do this, let's do that, and we knew it was close to maybe Noriega's beach house or something. So we come out to this place and we got our backpacks. We take all our bikes in. We bring all these cameras. We're like, let's take pictures and take them back to our dad. So we're taking pictures. We crawl through this little obstacle course thing. We look up. We got binoculars. We can see Noriega's house and all his guards. There's a helicopter going around every like 30 minutes. We're timing this. We're trying to gather all these details for our parents. And we're thinking, hey, let's do this, his obstacle course. Look how cool that is. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I don't know about you guys. So they're like, no, I'm not doing it, man. You're crazy. So I go through.
This is an obstacle course on his property.
For his people. It's his troops.
For his troops. Okay.
So I'm like, okay, every 15 minutes they move guards. So we get in there and I'll do one obstacle every 15 minutes. And then if you guys see somebody coming, just, give me the green light. We're out of here. So I finished this obstacle course, right? I come back. You guys take pictures? You see that? That was so cool. They're like, Bryan, you're so dumb, man. I'm like, why? They can't see me. I'm camouflaged. I got my dad's green beret. Can you imagine if they would have caught us?
Oh, yeah, dude, that's crazy.
We got a general's son, colonel. The lowest rank was a major.
Oh, my gosh, dude, that's crazy.
And we gather all this stuff, take it to our old man. Oh, my gosh, he lost his mind on me. He's like, you know what, boy? I know you're going to be a soldier someday, but you can't do this. This will get me fired and we'll get kicked out of Panama. I'm like,
or you shot.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
More importantly. So that's the stuff we did over there, man.
That is crazy, man.
If you guys look up that Panamanian flag, you know how many times I tried to take that Panamanian flag?
Oh my gosh, dude.
We had that thing down in bags, and we had the cops before they made it up there, the timing, and we could never get that thing out of there. It was so big. We probably tried 3 or 4, but anyway. Yeah.
So you know how like Tyler, the youth get together and play capture the flag every once in a while at the church. Yeah. That's like Bryan's version of capture the flag. It's like literally.
We wanted that flag.
It's like I don't even want to share any of my stories.
Oh, you're instantly lame, dude.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Yeah, you got nothing.
That's crazy.
Good time.
Bryan, did you graduate high school in Panama?
No.
Okay.
I was, so my parents, we were getting ready to get out because they were going to, come and get Noriega. So they were kicking us out of the country and getting us away. Because what's cool about it is 2nd Ranger Battalion was getting ready to invade Panama. Right.
Yeah.
So unbeknownst to me, some odd later, that's the battalion I went into.
Oh, nice.
So, a lot of guys that raided it were there when I was actually in high school there. So it's kind of cool. But we got out of there in time, and then boom, they came in and took care of business there. And I was supposed to go to Germany, Heidelberg, and all these places to get stationed over there. I was so excited. My sister and I, and all this time back to my brother, we were trying to locate him and we just couldn't find him. He was off the grid, So I hadn't seen him for probably 10, 12 years.
Wow.
And we have no idea where they're at because he just lived off the grid and did work here and there and in and out of jail, stuff like that. So back to the Panama, coming back to Idaho, we landed in Florida and we bought a van and we're driving back. And I just felt this overwhelming sense that, man, I think I want to stay here in the States. I don't know if I want to go to Germany. And, we rolled up to my grandpa's house and I look at my mom and I say, Mom. So my dad gets out of the car. Mom, I'm staying here. There's something for me here. I don't want to go to Germany. Something's telling me to stay here. I want to be with my grandpa again, and I want to work the farm. This is I love it here. And I said, I gave you 4 years over there, and then my dad comes in and hears all that. And, he blows up. He's like, all right, man, you're 17. You're on your own. You're making this decision. I'm done with you. I'm like, yes, sir. I'm out, and my mom's balling and he's like, I'm not giving you a dime. You earn your own. I'm like, I'll do it. Yes, sir. There's one man that I've been knocked out once in my lifetime. You know who that is? It's by my old man. That guy knocked me out cold for raising my voice to my mom. And I learned a big lesson from that, by the way, but that didn't feel too good.
The hard way.
Never, right? The hard way. Never raise your voice at your mom when your old man's around. And so I said, all right, fine. I'm done with you. I gave you 4 years. I love you. I'm going to miss my mom and sister, but good riddance, man. And so they leave, leave me. And I'm like, Grandpa, can I stay with you?
And they go to Germany.
And this is your senior year, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Right? In
senior year, yep.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, this is good. And Brent and Kelly and Brett, they're like, yeah, he's staying, Brian's staying. And so we're getting back together. We're like catching up, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to play ball and, all this stuff. And so I tried to register for school and that. And they said, you're from Panama. You can't go. I'm like, what do you mean I can't go to school? I'm a senior in high school. And then finally we got that passed. And then I said, well, I want to play football and that. Like, no, you can't play football. You're out of country. You've played enough sports. And I'm like, what? So the whole community had to write a letter to the mayor and get a waiver for me to play football. So the whole city, everyone's signing this petition so I can play ball. I'm like, this is crazy, because I got long hair. I'm not really I've got a filthy mouth and stuff. I just don't know. I grew up
only in Sugar. Is it Sugar City?
Yep. Sugar.
Only in Sugar City, Idaho, can you get the whole town to
right
to sign a petition.
I know. So I play football, and then I had to do it for wrestling and track and all the other stuff. But anyway, I finally get the green light so I can play ball. And as I'm getting with my buddies, and I'm going to church. I said, hey, I'd like to hear the missionary discussions. I'm not a member yet, and I'd really like to become a member. And all my buddies were there to Brent, Brett, Kelly, Carol Lee, Sarah, Lisa, all these people that way back in the day, have been there for me the whole time, keeping in touch, sending letters and stuff like that. And I get back and 2 weeks later, I'm getting baptized. I was a golden.
Can you talk about that for a second, Brian? Like, I'm just curious, like, what's moving in you that prompts you to say, hey, I want to listen to these guys? I mean, some of it, obviously, you've got friends that are doing that are there, right? You've got, you're seeing that, happening with them. But you know what? Like, I've been around a lot of good friends who are good people that have done good things. And I haven't said, I want to do exactly
and
what they got going on.
And those missionaries are going to have some hard things for a 17-year-old kid to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right.
Like, your gig is up.
Yeah.
They're going to commit you to maybe put some things down.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that too, right? How do you because what you're getting into there. It's not, you're going in eyes wide open.
I started asking questions, and you remember that question I had? I'm like, the first thing I asked them, I was like, hey, I got one question for you. If I die or my mom dies, will I see her again? And they said, yes. First time I've heard that my whole life. And I said, what do I got to do to get baptized and become a member? Because you just answered something that has been bothering me for my whole life. And finally someone answered it. And all that other stuff, was not a big deal. I was like, I'll stop whatever I got to stop. I'll cut my hair. I'll stop swearing. I'll stop whatever it takes just to know that I can be with my mom again. And I just started bawling. And my aunt and uncle and my grandparents were just, I was like, this is so awesome. And it was like, I had to go through all that. And it was just an icing on the cake. It seemed to, when I got baptized by my Uncle Darwin, one of my, he's like another dad to me, and my Aunt Wendy. And I came out of that water and all my family's there. And it just felt, I can't even explain it, after all the crap that I've gone through, and that it just felt like, this is it. Finally, I got something that just between me and I know in my heart it's real. And, you know, and it's the first time I felt something real in a long time, you know?
So what did those missionaries look like when you sit down with them, you ask that question, they give you the answer?
Yeah, I'm just like,
and it's locked in.
Oh, Elder Peterson and wait for it, I got his name. It'll come to me, but they just, everything they said was just like, boom, boom. I was like, look, I get it. I love the Book of Mormon. I'll read it. I just want to get baptized because you answered that one question. I didn't know much about Jesus Christ. I didn't know much about anything. It was that one question that, oh yeah, my mom, I'll be with her forever, you know? And since then, you know, it's been a few years later, you know, and I always look back to that, and those missionaries, boy, if it wasn't for them, and it's just amazing, you know.
But the thing that's interesting too is, you know, the missionaries are obviously they play a role in that, you know, big event, right?
Yeah.
But I just, you know, there's sort of like this long path of preparation, you know,
Right.
And it's I don't know that I can identify it, you know. I couldn't tell you what that path looks like, but when I hear you talk about experiences, I know there's a path of preparation, right? I mean, and I don't think, you know, you talk about, you know, the things that you did as a teenager, you know, the shenanigans and all this other stuff. To me, like, that's sort of part of the path,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And you get to a place where maybe it's just interesting that there's the one question. You said something, Bryan. You said, I didn't know a whole lot about Jesus Christ or anything else, but I knew that one thing. That's an interesting perspective, because I think maybe that's an important perspective, Mike, to think about, right? That we have.
Well, I think of like what I think of why it sticks with some. Why does it stick?
Yeah.
Right? The other day, yesterday, I get home about 5:30. I got a 6:00 church meeting, right? So I'm just thinking of what my neighbors think, right? Mike
Right.
Freeman pulls up to his house, jumps in his house, comes out in a suit and tie, holding a little blue book, gets back in his car and goes away someplace for 4 hours.
Right.
On a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And as I'm getting in the car and I'm holding this book that I just love, right? Yeah. I'm holding my Book of Mormon that I love. And that's just what I do. I go with the standard missionary issue Book of Mormon. Like, that's what I do. I walk in, that's it. I walk in and I walk into my meeting and that's what I got. And it's like, in my mind, it's like, that's all I need.
That's awesome.
And so I get in this book, I get my book, I jump in my car, and as I'm climbing in, I see some neighbors around, and I'm like, I wonder what they think, right? They got to be thinking that's peculiar, right? Yeah. That's weird. It's not Sunday, it's Tuesday, and this guy's doing this thing, and I just look down at that book, and I'm like, yeah, it sticks. Yeah. Right? I was 19 when I had similar encounter with missionaries, and I was as golden as you can get. Well, actually, you were probably more golden than I was. But I mean, I had an experience with the Holy Ghost, and I knew the Book of Mormon was true. And I just sat down and was like, now let's do this. How quickly can we do this? You know, and it sticks. And I think, Tyler, it gets to that one thing. Yeah. Like there's a million other things that add icing to the cake. And I'm not saying I'm an active member of the church in 2021 because of something that happened, you know, in 1994, but it stuck.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's an important thing to maybe at least mention, right? Because I think that sometimes there's a thought process that says, I need to know all the things for me to be able to be all in on something, right? And I don't, you know, that's not the case. I mean, I think the three of us would all, you know, beat that drum. That's not the case. It's the one thing. Now, sure, we want to push ourselves to progress down a path where we're adding upon that thing, right? But it's not.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because I do, but I almost do because I want to be of service to others.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to be in a position where the Bryan Beverleys of the world can come and say, hey, Mike Freeman, I have one question. And I'd like to be able to confidently look at that person and say, I can tell you the answer to that question.
Yeah, right.
And I can tell you how I know that, right? I don't need a merit badge full of spiritual experiences, a sash around,
Right.
To be like, and this, and I did this, and I did this. But I would love to be of service if you ever needed something and you could turn to Mike Freeman and I can say, yeah, I can tell you about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, I think that's really where it shifts. Once you got it, now try to be of service. And I think, Bryan, that's an interesting thing, because you're hanging out, you're now a member of the church, but there's an airplane to Australia. There's a really long airplane flight to Australia. And I'm dying to know how you bridge that, because I can tell you right now, again, you talk about burdens. I had to go places. I had to go to a mission where people were going to listen and I would get results. Like, that's just how it had to happen. Right. My faith is kind of a conditional, it sounds terrible to say, but I had a young, kind of a budding faith, and it really helped that I went to South America and I could walk around and I could teach all day. You went to Australia, brother.
Yeah.
Australia is the hardest. It's like one of the hardest missions in the world, right?
It is.
Because they're living in paradise and you're like, hey, you missing anything? You know?
Yeah, right. So, Bryan, before you jump on the airplane, can you talk about the process of making that decision to go?
Yeah, man. I tell you what, it was my buddies, Brett and Kelly. I tell you what, those guys set such a tone for me. All of a sudden they're putting in their papers. I'm like, well, you guys gonna leave me? Like, what the heck, man? I'm brand new. I don't know much about this church, you know? I'm like, you can't leave me. Like, bro, just get your papers ready and go. I'm like, I've only been a member a year. And I said, I can't, I just not ready, man. And my parents, they're not going to give me any money. And, you know, I'm like, how do you go? How much is a mission? They're like, oh man, it's like 10 grand. I'm like, oh man, I'll be working forever to get out on a mission. And so I start, you know, I get a full ride scholarship to Rick's College on a track and football scholarship. And Coach Sondrager, man, what a blessing. My track coach, he solid guy. Knew my family situation, took care of me, scholarship and that, and said, hey, Bryan, you know, there's some good classes, mission prep, stuff like that you should think about going to. And so he encouraged me, and so did my Uncle Darwin and Aunt Wendy. They would their family is amazing, and I was around them all the time, and we had the missionaries around, and you know, I was learning a lot. And I said, okay. I spent a year up there, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a year off. I'm gonna work, and I'm gonna get on my mission. So I got out of school that summer. Well, I finished the school this summer, ran track and played ball, football and that. And then I started working for All American Sports. There's sports. I'm all about sports. I got to be in some sports thing or something like that. And so I started working there, and he's mission prepping me, and I'm earning money. And I'm like, God, I just can't make enough. I'm working on the farm. I'm working at there, and I'm trying to see if I can carry my scholarship over, and my parents won't give me any money. They're in Germany still. So I said, okay, I just got to get my papers going. Something's going to happen. My grandpa comes to me. He's like, Bryan, I know you're stressing about this mission. I don't want you to stress about paying for it. I'll pay for your mission. You just get your papers ready and go out. I was like, what, Grandpa? He's like, I want you to get out there. He's like, I know it's something you want to do. And I was like, oh, Grandpa, are you sure? He's like, yes, get out there. I'm like, oh, you know, because me and my grandpa, we've been working for years, and he's like my idol, and I just love him so much, and he's my example. And so he says, okay, get your mission papers ready. So I get all my papers in. I'm excited to stake president, all the interviews, all that stuff. And I'm waiting for my call. Guess who shows up at my grandparents' house? My dad and my brother.
No.
Your younger
my younger brother.
Your birth father.
And my real father.
Okay.
Show up and I'm, oh my gosh, this is not happening. I look at Kish. He looks at me and he goes, "Are you my brother?" Wow. I said, "Yeah, I'm your brother, bro. You're huge." And I just grabbed him and I started bawling. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Kish, we've looked for you forever. We couldn't find you." And I'm like, "Dad, where you been?" And I'm bawling and just like, I can't believe this, and I'm like, "I'm not letting you go, bro. You are not leaving my hands." I look at my dad, I'm like, "He's not going anywhere." And, we're all hugging each other. We hang out but my dad's got to go back to St. George or somewhere and work. And I'm like, man, I can't let this happen. And I was like, "Okay, what's your address? Where are you going, Dad? I need you." I'm like, "Kish, you got to call me. Here's my number." And I'm like, "You have to try because I can't lose you again, man." So I'm calling my mom, like, "Mom, I know where Dad's at. I just saw Kish and I'm waiting for, this is why I'm waiting for my mission call." And so I'm like, "Hey, Dad, I want to come to Christmas and spend Christmas with you." So I go to Christmas and spend Christmas with my brother and my dad. And man, I was just hanging out with my brother and teaching him how to throw a ball and just playing games. And I was like, man, this is my little brother. I love this kid. I'm like, and I'm thinking back in my mind, I'm waiting for my mission call. What am I gonna do? I can't leave my bro here with this, after all these years, 12 years. And now I'm finally, he's a big kid, he's 12 years old. I'm like, no way. I can't go. I can't go on a mission. And so I go back to the stake president and I'm like, I tell him, I don't know what to do. I can't go. Well, excuse me. My mission call is back at home, Rexburg, right? And we're driving back to Rexburg and I'm just like bawling because I was like, I can't let them disappear. I finally know where they're at. I know where Kish is, and he just needs to be with us and my mom and that. And I'm praying and praying. I get the call and I open it and it says Brisbane, Australia and Papua New Guinea. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's clear on the other side of the world. So I'm like, I'm excited, but then I'm like thinking, what am I going to do? This can't be happening. So the stake president gives me this blessing and even in my patriarchal blessing, it says, you got to serve, Bryan. I'm like, I know I have to serve. I know I have to serve, Heavenly Father, because this will solidify my testimony and I'll be able to learn about the church. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to serve a mission. I know it's going to work out. It says in my patriarchal blessing, my family will be taken care of and everything work out. I just can't believe I finally got back with my brother. My dad goes to jail. I get a phone call. He's in jail. I'm like, well, where's Kish? He's going to go to a foster home. I'm like, no, he's not. There's no way. I'm here. I'm his brother. And, well, you're not a legal guardian. I'm like, what? And I didn't know this, but he had been in and out of foster care for years and treated terribly. And, and he just has always had that chip on his shoulder, my bro Kish. And you can understand why. And he's felt kind of betrayed by his mom and his brother and sister. And I just, it's hard to live with that. I just love that kid and I'll give him whatever I got to let him know I love him. And so my dad gets put in jail and my mom's coming home. She comes home and we get Kish back. So we're getting custody. We're getting all this. I'm like, thank you. And then my sister, Rochelle, she gets in some issues over in Germany. So she has to come back, over to live in the States. And, she's probably pulling some of the things I was pulling. I didn't teach her too well, and so she's heading back. And then I'm like, I'm in the MTC. I'm having the most spiritual experience of my life. And there's Sister Linford. She's one of those hinge points. She asked me to give a prayer. We were role playing and she said, hey, I need you to give a prayer to pray about whether the church is true or not. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I'll tell you guys, that right there solidified me knowing that the Book of Mormon was true, me going on a mission, everything was falling into place. And I just knew I had to get out there. But still in my mind, I'm like, it's my brother. Now my sister's coming. Who's going to take care of him? And I know my grandparents do fine in that, but man, I haven't been with my family and I feel responsible for him and, and I can take care of him. President Pinniger was the MTC president.
Jay?
Yeah, he catches wind that I'm struggling. I bust my ankle playing basketball, and it's jacked up. And so I get a blessing, and then he hears, I'm talking to this couple of my companions, and I'm like, man, I'm struggling, guys. I think I got to go home. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And so they fed it up, and he goes to President Pinniger. He has me in his office, and I'm like, oh, geez, what'd I do wrong? I'm sorry, I sprained my ankle. I'm just trying to dunk that volleyball. And he goes, no. He's like, I feel like you need another blessing. I'm like, oh, I'm okay, President Pinniger. I really am. He goes, no. He gives me a blessing. It was almost verbatim of what the stake president had given me, that blessing. He's like, you need to go. And he quoted my patriarchal blessing. And he didn't know me at all. He didn't know my patriarchal, but he's like, you need to go on your mission and your family will be taken care of. I was like, oh. I'm like, yes, sir, I'm going. So I get on that plane. So here's my sister comes in. Here I go to Australia. She comes in, and my brother and them. And I'm going to Australia on a mission.
Wow. And you're just trusting.
Yep.
Right? You're trusting that the Lord's promises are certain and it'll work out.
Yep. And I land in Australia, and I kick off the mission. And, I had a hard time because I didn't know much about the church. And I got run into I had a pretty hard discussion with an anti guy that just, man, he was good. He ate me up and spit me out. My companion. And I just questioned what I was doing out there. And I called the mission president, and I said, hey, President, I'm still struggling with this. He's like, I know. President Pinniger called me, and he told me about your story. And he goes, I just want to tell you something, Bryan. There's something special out here for you. And I really think you need to stay out here and let Heavenly Father take care of that. And I was like, okay, that's enough. I learned the hard way, right? It took all those times that I finally all right, I'm sticking it out. And so I got a blessing from the member at that time. It was like 2 a.m. President Horry Harvey of the mission president talked to me till 2 a.m. And I was at the member's house struggling and trying to find my testimony again. And he gave me a blessing. And from there I was a rock, man. It was on. So I served, a bunch of experiences in Brisbane, Australia, and the icing on the cake is when I went to Papua New Guinea to serve up there. And like you said, Mike, it was all we did was teach and baptize. It was phenomenal, and it's something I needed in my life to just teach and baptize and there's one guy. If I can share this one story.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the biggest experiences, hinge points on my mission that just solidified everything for me. And I knew Heavenly Father was there for me and my family. And so while I'm at my mission, my brother and sister get baptized. You remember Brent, Kelly, and Brett? Those guys, brother and sister. they baptized.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How it comes around, right?
Yeah.
And so while that's going on, I'm here in Papua New Guinea, and I met this New Guinean by the name of Benson Taboo. He's a kid, and his leg has been broke. It's a third world country, and it's like backwards, and he's on this little crutch. But this kid is the most amazing athlete I've ever seen in my life. He's a 16-year-old kid, and we teach him the gospel. This guy can spike a volleyball, and on one leg.
Yeah.
And he has his other dead leg tied to him, I'm like, oh man, that's so gross. I'm like, can we fix that? He's like, no, they can't fix it, and because they don't have the means and stuff. So it's supposed to just fall off. We're like, dang, he's going to get a disease and die or something. But so we baptize him, and he's like, hey, Elder Beverley, and Elder, he's from New Zealand.
You are 52. You know what I mean?
Oh, thanks, bro.
We can send you some. We can send you some
too, like you guys.
There you go.
We can send you some Prevagen.
Yeah, that's right.
Underwood. There it goes.
There you go. All right, good.
He asked us. He's like, hey, can you guys come and teach my village? And we're like, what? We're like, heck yeah. So this is December 1st, right? We grabbed all these big, our laundry baskets full of Book of Mormons. And we walk in this village in Papua New Guinea. These kids start running because they're like crying, like, oh my gosh, we've never seen white people or things like that. It's third world, man. It's deep in there. And so we're like, we give out all these free books, and they don't have anything down there. They live off the land and all that. Probably like you, Mike, where you served. And so we're giving out all these Book of Mormons, and we asked the village elder if we can teach the village, because he's the village elder. We have to ask permission and stuff like that. And he's like, oh yeah. So we have these whole village of people sitting there. We're teaching all these people, and they're like touching us, and like thinking if we're who we are, and they called us men of God, the Papua God, Papua God. Yeah, Papua God. That's, they speak Motu and Pidgin English out there. And they just kept, and we kept like, I had all this, Nike clothes and all that. I was giving everything away, my shoes, Jordans, all that. They're like, oh my gosh, they thought it was like gold, priceless for them. And it was so much fun, and I gave all my ties out. I'm like, yeah, I'm almost done with my mission. I'm giving everything away, and we commit them to the whole village be baptized. And so they said, well, we would like to be baptized on December 25th. I'm like, what? Yes, Christmas Day. That'll be the best Christmas of our life. So there we are. Tyler, Mike, we take this whole village out to this river, and we baptize this whole village in a river, and we confirm all of them on the side of the river. And I tell you, I'll never forget that my whole life. Just seeing those people and how happy, and we, like you said, Mike, sharing that one thing that sticks. And man, these people were just, I was just amazed to be there, be a part of it, and be a tool, in the Lord's hand to experience something like that. I'd never experienced anything like that. I always heard about it, read it in ensigns.
I had pictures of that on my wall, right? I had pictures of those baptism scenes on my wall trying to motivate me, right?
Yeah, it's called Mosiah 18. That's all. That's my only reference to that.
Yeah, the guy here with us went to the Ohio, and he's probably ready to jump through the screen and strangle Bryan Beverley.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I teach your village? Can you teach my village?
Yeesh.
Unbelievable!
That's amazing.
Just phenomenal. I had some miracles on my mission, guys.
That's why you had to be there, man. That's why you had to continue. But the cool thing is, like, you pushed through that, right? Because how many times are we on the verge of something amazing, and the resistance is like, I'm out.
Right?
Like,
it goes back to
that. A couple of places where you could have been out.
It goes back to that discussion we had in the beginning, right? It's like, I'm running. And I'm like, I'm gonna do 5 miles. 3 miles is good, right?
I'm good.
The payoff's at the 5. I mean,
there you go. Yeah.
I just think I love that. I love the whole story.
Oh, I agree. President
with
Pinniger called.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I agree with Mike that the thing that I think is miraculous in that story is the ability for certain people to see where you should be, even though you couldn't see where you should be, and helping you get there. Like I'm always amazed by that, right? I think that's such a cool.
Yeah, but what's funny? It's not. It's just interesting when you know that your family is truly, like, the Lord held up His end of the bargain. All the more reason to be all in.
Right?
Like, you just left, and you left uncertainty. You left all of this, and you're down on the other end of the planet, and He's taking care of His promises, man. Like, who am I to think, like, who are we? We always, like, I don't know. Like, why don't we know? He's never, ever, ever not done something He said He would do.
I hear you, man.
Ever. And I got to tell you, Tyler, I don't know if you've ever I don't know if you've ever had the blessing or the opportunity to serve with a missionary companion from Idaho. Let me tell you, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than working with an Idaho kid. You know, those farm boys, they work.
That's what I'm talking about.
True. That is true.
Elder Jake Waddell, man, my trainer, shout out to you.
Oh,
Idaho boy, country strong, hard worker, man.
yeah, one time we had a flat or apartment and we were all from Idaho, man. It rocked.
That's great, man.
Hey, you know what's really cool about that story is at the time an apostle by the name of Elder Nelson came out to our mission, and he changed our whole mission. Our last month we were out there, he's like, all right, elders, I got to change your mission out here. You got to start training these people because it's becoming his own mission. Place is growing out here.
He's talking about Papua New Guinea at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So here, Elder Nelson and his wife come out there, right? And guess where we get to take him? We get to take him and drive out there with our mission president to Kariva, our area, where all these people just got baptized and all that. And he here, I'm with apostle. I've never, I'm right there with an apostle, and I'm like hearing these words, and he's giving us an apostolic blessing and blessing these people. And he's like, he tells them someday there's going to be a temple here. And I'm like, whoa, wow, this is amazing. And, in general conference, when he said that there's a temple being built in Papua New Guinea, I just, another one of those things solidifying that Heavenly Father, he just takes care of things and gets it done, and just amazing. So I sent him a letter. I'm like, hey, President Nelson, I know you probably don't remember me, but we went back and forth on a couple of letters and stuff, but I sent him the picture of us in Papua New Guinea at this church. And I said, I will be there if you promise you'll be there when you dedicate that temple.
I love it, man. That is wild.
Goodness. And can you imagine the scene when you are there?
Oh, I look forward to that.
Right. And the generations of people, because it gets exponential, right? I mean, you were there from ground zero, but it's in a totally different spot now.
Yeah, we were the missionaries out there before it became its own mission. And I forgot, remember that Benson taboo that brought us to his village? So about a year later after my mission, I get a phone call from Salt Lake City. In his blessing, when we confirmed him, we promised he'd be able to serve a mission. I get a phone call from Salt Lake City saying, hey, is this a Bryan Beverley? I'm like, yeah, it is. This is Salt Lake church headquarters. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? What's going on? We have a Benson taboo here in Salt Lake that's going to get his leg amputated and get a prosthetic. He would really like to see you if you can come up and see him. I got in that car that night and I was driving. I won't say how fast, but I got there and I could not believe it. I was hugging him and he was crying. We were crying. And I had to show him how to use the bathroom and the shower, and he'd never know. He came straight from the village.
Oh my goodness.
Just miracles like that,
That's crazy.
Unreal.
Oh, just phenomenal,
That's crazy. So I and look, this is hard to believe, Bryan.
Don't even say it, dude. Don't even say it.
I know. Like, I don't want to say
it.
Keep
the tape rolling.
We've been at this a couple hours.
Unreal. We haven't even gotten into it. Like, we're not even.
I know.
He's met Janette. We know that. Luckily, we got that taken care of.
But like, I got to close the circle a little bit here because I want to talk about Janette for a second, because you mentioned early on, you were talking about your time in the service, and you said, I met Janette and she was an angel. And that was a moment that changed a lot of things for us. So, or for you. So can you talk a little bit about Janette? I know Janette a little bit, and I know how amazing Janette is, but can you talk a little bit about her?
Yeah. When they'd been trying to set us up on a date for years, and for a while, not years, for a while. And I kept going to these different schools. I was in Best Ranger, all this stuff, And finally I came back and I was going to meet her, and I was in the best shape of my life. I'm a $147, just ripped, tan, you know. I spent the last 6 months getting paid by the Army to work out.
Right.
All I did was work out and do this competition, you know. And so I get back and I met her, and I instantly fell in love, you know. We went to a restaurant and Applebee's, and we ate this Asian salad that became our favorite. And we were sitting there talking about patriarchal blessings, and hers complimented mine, complimented her, kind of scared us both. We're like, dang, that's kind of weird. You know, ours is pretty close. And then I look at her and she looks at me. I know for myself that at that point in time, she's got to be the one. I know she's the one, you know. After serving a mission, you know, when you feel that boom, that's that boom moment, you know. It's like, whoa, I wasn't even, you know, and I hadn't been dating, I hadn't been really focused in that, and man, she just took me for a whole. I was like, oh man, you know.
Okay, so hold on, that is a good salad. You don't think it was the salad that was making you feel that way?
I know it wasn't, man. I didn't hate it. I was like, I think I was flipping it.
So did you happen to find a way to justify you removing your shirt in the middle of the restaurant so she could see how rich you were?
Hey, babe. So we kind of date, you know, and then she has to go back home to Utah. So Bryan, my best buddy, and his wife, Patty, her older sister, they invite me to Lake Powell with their family and her. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. So I can't believe it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. But I told him, like, Bryan, man, she's the one, man. I'm like, I don't know, but you know, so we were writing letters and we'd talk all night, you know, and stuff like that. And it was good, you know. I'm cheesy on letters, but it's hard to get it out of me. You know? So we ended up going to Lake Powell, and man, I'm like, this is where I got to lay it on. You know, I can't let. She's getting ready to go overseas she's a concert pianist. So she's been going to University of Utah and studying, and she got this piano teacher. So she's getting ready to head overseas to go to this Montessori school and learn, you know, do her thing, you know, because she's amazing, you know. And I always say she can pound that ivory and just makes amazing music that just blows your mind. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to Lake Powell. I just got to win over her mom.
How'd that go?
So my goal is to be as cheesy as I can. Her mom had to tell me, like, Bryan, we get it. You can stop now. And her dad, man, he's the kindest, gentlest guy, but the most intimidating person I'd ever met. I'm like, oh man, I don't think he likes me. You know?
Wait. You hung out with like generals and stuff.
Yeah.
This guy's intimidating.
Yeah, man. I'm like, oh man, I think he's giving me the eye, man. Oh, and you know, and so, but Janette, you know, it kind of scared her, I guess, you know, from what she says, and she wouldn't have anything to do with me, man. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I say? You know, what happened? You know, and you know, we went up and walked in the Lake Powell there, went up in the hills, and you know, and we're talking, me being me, try to make a move, and and epic failure, man.
Army Ranger fails. That's
right. I know, like.
That's some humble pie right there.
Oh yeah, I was like, man, maybe she's not into me, you know. Maybe I'm just way off, you know. I'm like, you know, because she's ready to go out, you know, go somewhere else. I'm like, dang it, I tried, you know. And then so we get back and we're all going to the lagoon, and her sister invites me, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I could go. Janette doesn't want anything to do with me, you know. And so come to find out, she had kind of yelled at Janette. Her mom even yelled, you know, said, you got to treat him nice, you know, And so I'm like, oh, sweet. You know, I'll go to Lagoon. So we went to Lagoon, and that's where everything changed. We went to Lagoon, and she started liking me. And I think she knew. She's got a couple scriptures that she's a rock. She just reads and seeks guidance from our Heavenly Father in everything. And that's just the way she is, just an angel. And then I said, hey, will you want to come and meet my family down in Rexburg, Idaho, Sugar City? And she's like, oh yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, this is going to be weird. So we drive down there. And I love Sugar City because I feel like I'm a movie star when I come home because I got baptized. I'm the Panama kid, you know.
Well, the whole town signed up for you to play football.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all invested, you know. They're all invested in my life. And so I walk in the ward and they're like, whoa, is this her? You know, are you married? I'm like, all these girls and grandmas coming up like, oh, are you gonna marry Bryan? You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, no. You know, so she's getting the questions and that, and we get back, and you know, and I'm thinking, oh, so I'm only on a 2-week leave, so I gotta move quick, you know.
Oh my goodness.
So I go home to Boise, and I'm like, on the way there, I'm just praying. I'm like, that's it, I'm buying a ring. So I get to Boise. We'd already kind of, you know, looked at things, and I like, and you know, and so I got a ring, and I'm like, I turn around and drive right back down. So I call her mom, and I call her best friend Sarah, and I said, hey, where does she like to go? What does she like to eat? So her mom and her friend Sarah are in on this, you know. I'm like, so they make her favorite meal, and here I'm in this fancy Mustang. I'm like, oh, I got this, you know, I'm all cool, you know. And so we go up to in Cottonwood there, and we're at one of her favorite places. She likes to do a lot of things in the mountains, and she loves it up there, and she gets a lot of answers and stuff and clears her mind. And I knelt and asked her, and you know, 5 kids later, and
wow,
putting up with a lot of stuff, you know, here we are, you know.
Bryan, what kind of influence has Janette had in your life?
Oh, you know, I needed someone like her, because she's such a rock and an angel, and she grew up in the church, and so she, you know, she gets on my case a few times here and there to, you know, teach family home evening or come follow me, or, you know, let's say some prayers and stuff, you know, and we compliment each other on a lot of things, and we do a lot of praying and soul searching together, attending the temple, and, you know, just a lot of experiences we've had together, and she's got such wise counsel and guidance from how strong she is. She's just a rock, you know, you can't crack her. She's always in those scriptures, and as a concert pianist, that's where she gets her. She feels real close to Heavenly Father when she's, you know, developing this music. She got to play with some symphonies with Jenny Oaks Baker, and she's getting ready to play with a couple other people, and she's going to launch her website and all of this, and just, you know, just a phenomenal person that loves everyone, and thank goodness she loves me. I married way above my league.
I love it, man.
Well, you know what? Every dude I know says that, but Bryan, you're not like every dude I know.
Yeah.
So when you say you married out of your league, that is a tremendous compliment to Janette.
She's amazing, man. I love her to death, you know.
Bryan, we've talked tonight. We've talked a lot about, gosh, we've covered some ground. We've talked about a lot of people. You know, we've talked about Brent and Kelly and Brett and Carol Lee and Sarah and gosh, Uncle Darwin and Aunt Wendy.
Yeah.
Santa Claus the pastor, right? But one of the things that we talk about on this show is honoring people and those people that have had an impact in our lives. You know, you've talked about some great people, Janette obviously included. Yeah. Is there anyone that you'd like to take a few minutes and honor right now?
You know, my mom is I love her so much, you know, and she's gone through a lot, and she still goes through a lot with all of us kids, but she's always there and smiling and there for her grandkids. And, you know, my stepdad passed away. He had a heart attack about 6 years ago. You know, I was there, and I brought him back once. I crushed his ribs, gave him CPR, and he brought him back, and he gave me that look. The first time I had a look from him that said, you know, good job, boy. I'm proud of you. And then I thought he was going to punch me in the face. But, you know, that look, I'll never forget that look. And, you know, and then he, you know, heart attack got him on the way to the hospital. But, you know, we call him Big Jim, and man, he's been such an influence on me in my life. He always told me, if you rest, you rust. So don't ever rest, and that rust won't get in you. And if you keep fighting and keep strong and do what you know you need to do and provide for your family, everything's going to work out. He says, he's not a part of my religion, but we might have done some work after he passed away. But and I know he's thanking me, and my grandpa, Kazoo Sakota, just a hard-working man. He's the kind of guy that wakes up at 4 a.m, gets your vehicles out, gasses them up, makes them all warm. So all you got to do is, even in high school, junior and high school and that, or going to the farm, all you do is jump in and take off and go do your thing. He paid for my mission, gave me what I have. My work ethic just set some tone for me to make me the man I am today, and I hope I make him proud. And even my real father, I hope I make him proud. And I look forward to seeing all of them again, and just the people that I come across. All these things it's not a coincidence, meeting you, Tyler, how we met, and now you, Mike, and Troy, and all these amazing people that just come into our lives. It's not for a reason. It's to learn something from them. And I learned from a lot of people in this line of work. It hadn't been easy with Secret Service and, and coming into Air Marshal Service and now being assistant federal security director here at the San Diego Airport. I got quite a few fun stories. How about starting the day off with a bomb threat, huh?
Oh,
how about
that's a little different than my opening salvo of the morning. But Bryan, I think it's you talk about all these people and I agree with you. It's like the path is intentional. The people and sometimes it's what we do with it. I think I'm listening to you talk about all of these experiences that you've had, and I don't know, we have this in a different setting. Maybe with someone else, the conversation is, man, this was brutal. This was more than I could take. But I think that I'm listening, I'm seeing where you're at now and knowing who you are, and seeing how you've embraced the experiences that came at you. It's impressive. And I'm grateful for the fact that we meet people. And if we take advantage of the opportunity we have to be around those people, there's lessons to be learned, and our lives are better for it. Right. And, shoot, you've got a whole village that's probably saying that. And I've never had that. I can't say that.
Yeah. It goes through us, right? Our lives are better, but then our lives go and they touch. Right. And Bryan, that brings us to our last question, because that is one of the lessons that we get from George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life, right? The show is called Richest Men in Town as a tribute to that thought, that one life touches so many people. Our buddy George gets removed from that and he gets to see the impact that his life had. I can only imagine the impact that your life has had. And you pull Bryan Beverley out, and there's a lot of people in a totally different situation. And I commend you for what you're doing today, right? You're not done. We keep going.
Yeah.
I'm seriously ready to put a pin in it and come back and pick it right back up, because I'd love to hear Air Marshal stories and
Secret Service, for crying out loud.
Yeah, seriously.
We didn't even go there.
I know. But to that, Bryan, we end every episode with that question, right? In that movie, little brother Harry Bailey comes home and raises the glass to his big brother George and toasts him as the richest man in town. And at that time, George Bailey is a wreck. And really, selfishly, that's kind of where Tyler and I took this program and kind of ran with it, because not that we're a wreck, but we're not all put together, right? The best of us aren't too good, and we could all be better. And yes. I feel like I've been better hanging out with Bryan Beverley tonight. So Bryan, what does it mean to you to be considered the richest man in town?
Oh man, it's very humbling, and I am thankful that I've have what I have. It wasn't for my family and the experiences, it's just given me, and it's you start to learn who you really are, and the impact you can have on others if you give it that chance, and just given that chance to serve and give back and bless other lives is, it's phenomenal. And I couldn't have done it without my family, with the strength of my brother and sister and all they've gone through, and my mom, and now my wife and my 5 kids. I love my kids, and they are what really brings me, and why I do what I do is all for them. And it just sits in, and it's rich, it's strong, and the bass, and I love it. I appreciate this opportunity to spend time with the both of you and your program. It just speaks words that keep it going, man, because it is truly awesome and an honor to be able to tell a story.
Well, I think that, I love that answer, because I you talk about, all the people in your life, and you in that by talking about your family kind of being the anchor for you. It's interesting. You said, it's you appreciate being able to tell the story. And I love the story. I think the story is important for people to hear. It's like life is tough, and life is going to throw some curveballs at us, and I loved listening to you talk today about some of those curveballs and some of those tough things, and there's going to be somebody who needs to hear your words. And they're going to think, I think I can overcome a few things, and tonight, I think Mike and I, we've learned that we need to be better about overcoming a few things, huh, Mike? And step that up. But Bryan, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate who you are. And I'm grateful to have you in my life, man. So thanks a ton.
Hey, and Tyler, I don't want to kill the vibe, but you mentioned curveballs. I just want to bring up that the Cubs win in 11, 6-5 over the Dodgers.
I saw
and complete the 3-game sweep, baby.
Oh, where's the broom?
Yeah, that's rough, dude. That's rough.
Bryan, man, you crushed it isn't even the word, man. I mean, how do you beat a grenade growing off in your face? You know what I mean? What are we going to do next week, Tyler? There's no way. I pity the fool that's coming after Bryan Beverley.
Exactly.
Thank you for your time tonight, man. Thank you.
Guys, take care, man, and God bless.
We usually say at the end of this thing, hey, Tyler, I'd go to war with this guy. I don't think there's anyone I'd rather go to war with than Bryan Beverley.
Amen.
Lock and load. Let's go.
Let's go. Green light, jump out of an airplane. Let's go.
That's it. Bryan, thanks for being here tonight, man. We appreciate you.
All right, brother. We'll get you next time.
Sounds good.
All right.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.